You know, when I heard that there are new wheel sizes, 27 plus and 29 plus, sort of a cross between a fat bike tire and the tire I already rode, and that these new wheels were going to usher forth new fork and rear axle standards, I wanted to find somebody and punch them in the goddamn throat. Seriously, bike industry, another new standard? Didn't we just do this like a year ago, and it was called 650B, and it was the same thing as my 26 that I already had, but it was a new reason to get rid of everything I owned because it was outdated, and we're doing it again? Can't we just keep it the same for, I don't know, like a month? How about that? Wouldn't that be great? I lost my shit. But after some anger management counseling, I realized I had a question. And the question was this: why? Why are we doing this? Why are we getting the new wheels? Why the new axle standards? Is this somehow better than what we already have? I didn't know. So I and our gear editor, Ryan Palmer, went across the country to try to get some answers. Mainly, is this a scam to just sell us new shit? Or is there something to all this stuff? I'm Vernon Felton. I'm a senior editor at Bike Magazine and BikeMag.com, and you're watching Blueprint.
Our first stop was Rocky Mountain Bicycles. Now, Rocky isn't the first company to experiment with plus-size tires. You gotta give credit to operations like Surly, who've been pushing the jumbo rubber for a while now. But Rocky's debut of a 27 plus full suspension bike at Seattle 2014 marked the first time that one of the larger companies had publicly come out of the plus-size closet. We went to see Alex Cogger, Rocky's lead product guy. He's been riding and working on this bike for a couple seasons now. Where does he see this whole plus-size thing going?
All right, so for me, I guess the real question is, where did this all come from? Because it was like 27 plus didn't even seem to exist to me a couple months ago, and now I'm hearing rumors in the bike industry it's the next best thing.
It was a bit of a coincidence, really, where I was talking to WTB about a completely unrelated project, and they happened to slip me some drawings that had this rim in it, and I had a great idea what I thought the tire could be used for, and it became this.
Is it the replacement for 650B 27.5? Is this going to take over?
In our world, absolutely not. There's absolutely room for 2.9, 2.7, and 2.7 plus. There's no question, because fundamentally they act differently, they behave differently, and we believe they're for different things altogether.
So who is plus size for? What kind of rider?
I think plus size does exceptionally well for that loose, if you don't know what you're getting yourself into. It's not an established trail systems example. It's not groomed and buff. It's a great tool for that. It's also incredibly stable. It's very grippy. So for someone who's less technically skilled or is looking for some added confidence, absolutely. Where it begins to fall down a little bit, like I said, is if someone who's trying to push a bike really hard into corners and really get aggressive, you'd have to make such a heavy, burly tire for it to not fold over that you're just basically bolting extra weight onto your bike.
Is this an industry scam to make people just go and buy new shit?
We're not looking to replace something that exists already in our lineup. This is a whole new bike for us, whole new category, new concept. So this is not replacing Altitudes, it's not replacing Thunderbolts or Elements or anything. It's its own beast.
So you see the WTB scraper rim, right? And you think, we wanted to make an overland bike. This makes sense. This is gonna fit a purpose, fill a need. That's different than, oh damn, I don't wanna miss the next trend. We better make something with that.
Agreed.
That's kind of backward thinking. Do you think there's some of that out there?
I think there will be quite a bit of that out there.
Did the consumer ask for this?
That's a difficult question because you see time and time again that consumers don't ask for something they don't know exists or can't even wrap their head around existing. No one asked for an iPhone before iPhones appeared.
Yeah. Nobody asked for suspension on mountain bikes before.
Exactly.
A lot of riders right now have trend fatigue, right? It just feels like there's a new standard, a new wheel size every season. And they don't want to see something new. They just got the new thing. How do you deal with that? There's got to be pushback.
Yeah, and as much as you hear trend fatigue, we get bitching fatigue for the same reason because, all we hear all day long is chirping on the internet about, this is new and 10-speed, oh my God, and, things like that. And there's a reason innovation happens. Like 15 years ago, bikes sucked.
Okay, he's got a point. Bikes are better today, and besides, Rocky sees plus size as an addition, not a replacement to what we already ride. But Rocky isn't the only player in this game. Other companies are looking to make a different breed of high-performance plus-size bike, and unlike Rocky Mountain, they're using a new rear axle standard, Boost 148. Why are companies adopting Boost? It was time to fly to Colorado Springs and talk to SRAM. After all, they partnered with Trek Bicycles last year to develop the new axle standard. When it comes to boost, the guy with the answers is Bastien Doms.
So what was SRAM's role in the development of Boost 148?
We've been approached by Trek about a wider hub spacing actually quite a while ago. I think it's now over 2 years ago when those guys approached us and said, hey, we're really looking for a way to make a stiffer wheel for long travel 29-inch bikes.
So essentially, Trek came to you and said, look, this is what we want to do. These are our goals.
Yep.
And we need some help with the numbers.
Is there room for Boost 148 and, for lack of a better word, traditional 142 by 12? Can they coexist in the future?
I'm truly convinced of the benefit of the 148 at the back, not just because it makes a better wheel, but because it really opens up a lot of potential for better frame design. With Boost and with the additional clearance, you can have shorter chainstays, you can have stiffer pivots, you can have a better bike. So I think this is the way to go. Now, I totally understand what you're saying. There's a lot of people out there who have 142 bikes and then they just want to be able to still find some parts. So I can't speak for the other makers, but I know that SRAM, for instance, is definitely going to support both dimensions for like a number of years. So there will be options for sure.
So Boost 148 is coming on strong. Whether you care about supersized tires or not, this rear axle standard is probably in your future. But let's get back to plus-size tires. Our next stop was Trek Bicycles in Waterloo, Wisconsin. You see, Trek has a new plus-size trail bike that's very different from what Rocky Mountain has cooked up. We had questions about Trek's new bike and about Boost 148. Mainly, why? Why the new sizes? Why are they going 29 plus instead of 27 plus? Why the new axle standard? Is this just change for the sake of change? What's the benefit? We sat down with Trek's Mountain Bike Brain Trust, and they got right to the point.
We are in an industry where there's kind of a lot of people that would prefer that everything was still steel and 26 and just a nice cultural kind of thing. And I get all that, but my side's coming from the iPhone or the Apple end of, if there's a better thing, why wouldn't you do it? Even though it's gonna totally piss people off because they're gonna have to change, right? But if it's that dynamic, that's the future. That's every other industry that we associate with, whether it's phones or whether it's stereos or cars. If there's something that's just super innovative or cool that people are going to dig, you got to do it.
Can you ride as aggressively on this? Where do you guys see that?
And that's been kind of the key to developing the Stash, is we rode other T9 Plus platforms out there, and they were great for some things, but they were really bad at others. And that's why really tuning the bike's geometry to work well with the big tires is key. So the short chainstay is key. It makes the bike handle so much better and so much more maneuverable. The fun thing about this project was starting with the biggest tire and saying we want to have the shortest chainstay, and how are we going to get there? What are the solutions to get there? So the elevated chainstay opens up a whole bunch of space here. We were able to make a larger section in our tubes, so they're stiff, they're light. We've also added the sliding dropout for geometry adjustment, was the main reason that's on there. So you can set them at 420 if you like a more stability, or you can push it forward to 410, 407 for really a very maneuverable bike.
How does Boost 148 play into this?
Boost is key. When this bike started out, it was never going to make it to production because the chainring was too close to the tire. That extra 3 millimeters allows this bike to happen. It would be impossible without Boost.
The impression out there is that it's going to be impossible to build something that's really fun to ride,
Yeah, right now everyone's saying, well, 27 plus is going to be the one that takes off because it seems like 29 plus has all of these challenges, but you guys are obviously coming from a different perspective, so why is that?
The tires that are out there today that are considered 27.5, 650B plus, and 29, if you were just using those as a decision maker between what you would do in the future, it's a hands down 29 plus. I mean, just because of the differences that we notice when you ride the bikes. And yes, you can there will be, and there are going to be better tires than 650B 27.5. But then when we dug in deeper and the profile of the tire, all these other things, the weight not being significant, it just made more sense to us to go all the way to the best system instead of the easiest.
If going a little bit wider there made it good, better, then why not go to 150, which is really 157, right? But people go, well, how about this other system that already exists? What's on downhill bikes?
Let's look at this particular bike. The main reason we didn't want to run 157 on this bike was heel clearance, because the chainstays are super short, and there's already, your heels are surprisingly close to a rear derailleur on this bike when you're riding it. So if you push that out another 10 millimeters, you're going to have even more heel strikes on the bike. On every other bike we make that has boost, the 2x issue is the main reason we didn't go to a 150 style setup. To get to a double setup, which we need to build sell bikes with a double still, you have to move to a wider Q factor. You either go to a full 83 millimeter bottom bracket, or you're going to have to go to some kind of a spindle spacer on a wider crank, kind of what they're doing on fat bikes now, which is not ideal.
Is this just another way for the bike industry to sell more bikes?
Now, I mean, the reality is, our jobs, right, are to make better bikes, and it's really about making better bikes that we're stoked about. The real threshold for this whole thing comes like, do we really think it's cool? Would I really sell this to my buddy? Would I really say, you got to give me $5,000, and I'll give you this bike and you're going to love it? And that's the test we put at it. And we try to make sure that no matter what we're doing, that test is true. And it, a lot of people think, Trek is this big company, and they're probably just a bunch of like accountants sitting back there, like, typing away, going, that's not the right margin, that's not the right. But that's not, there's a lot to do with a big company, but the bike company that we are, is the mountain bike company, is just like anybody else. We just want to make cool shit.
Bottom line, you can expect to see a bunch of plus-size bikes this year, and they're not all going to be the same. Some are going to make sense for touring, and some are actually pretty fun to play around on. As with all bikes, your mileage is going to vary, but plus-size bikes are not going to eliminate the bike you already own. Now, Boost 148, that is going to shake things up. There's also a new 15x110 fork standard, and as much as I wanted to hate all of it, I have to admit, some of it makes sense. Ultimately, this all comes down to you. You can buy the new stuff, or you can say screw it and ride what you have until the wheels fall off. That's never a bad thing.